Hi, this is Chrissy Incognito, and welcome to another episode of my show. Now, you might be wondering why I'm incognito. This is my alter ego that can say things that I cannot otherwise say unless I was incognito. So, thank you for returning. In order to understand more about this episode, please view the previous episodes. Happy listening. So I said, okay, let me start by saying, this relationship looks like it's going someplace, that it could just be more than dating, but like an actual relationship. We need to talk. And he was like, okay. And I said, listen, as you know, I don't want kids. I said, if you want kids, and you want to date people your own age, I am completely fine with it. I said, we can still remain friends. I don't want um I don't want you to be basically I know what I want in life, right? And I've always known, even at his age, I knew I didn't want children. Um, I said, I don't want to keep you from doing the things you want in life. So I said, you know, kind of like, I didn't really say this, but basically I was intimating that if the break was going to happen, it should happen now before we go from like the dating phase into a relationship. So that conversation could go in a couple of ways. That conversation could have went, um, I don't really know. I haven't thought that far. Um, or I feel the same, or no, this is not going to be what I want, or something around those that thought. So he said to me, very well thought out. He said to me, listen, he's like, before you came along, I knew that my responsibilities for my disabled brother is going to take precedence in my life. He said, my parents don't want him going to like a group home or an institution or something like that. So he goes, I understand that once they pass, I'm going to be the one responsible for him, and to have kids and a wife and all of that kind of stuff. He goes, it's just going to shortchange everybody. Okay. Um, I think he was more talking about the kids aspect of it. And then he said, well, my sister's probably going to want kids. So, you know, um, everything like that. So he's like, so he goes, I thought about this way before you came along. And I'm okay with not having kids or like a traditional family, um, because I know what my obligations are. And I said, okay. And we went into a relationship, and it was amazing. It was amazing. It really was so great. Okay. Now, let me go back and say, if I ever believed that somebody wasn't wholehearted in it, or if they had apprehension, or because you spend a lot of time with someone and you get to know their personality, when things don't sit right, when they're excited, when they're truly excited about stuff, when they really want stuff, when they're really not into whatever it is, because you can only fake it for so long. If I ever throughout the relationship felt that he did not wanna be there, I would have left, okay? Um, so we were planning I thought, we were planning a life together, and we both understood that, you know, if we were the same age, we would have probably gotten engaged, like, 2 years after, dating. But he had just, and in there somewhere, he finished college, he had to finish college, and then he had to get, like, a real adult job. Um, so I understood things were gonna be delayed, so to speak, meaning if I was dating somebody my own age, okay, let's say I was dating somebody 35 and they were in love as he appeared to be. If we didn't get engaged within 2 years, I would be like, "What's wrong?" Like, I wanna get engaged, right? If you don't wanna get engaged, we're obviously not on the same page. Like, there would be cause for pause in somebody who is my age, because if you're acting and peering and sincere about us being together, that would be the normal progression, okay? Because although I said I didn't want children, I never said I didn't wanna get married. Um, so in a normal situation, I would have said, like, "It's been 2 years. Are we doing this? Are we not doing this? Are we engaged? Like, are we moving this along to the next level?" But with him, I knew I had to shift my way of thinking, okay? But again, if I was not I don't I use the word convinced, okay? Because there's no other word to describe it, okay? Um, I don't feel that he was trying to convince me of something he didn't want or he didn't feel. So that's what that word kind of denotes. But that's not what I mean by that. I mean, if like his actions and his mood and his demeanor did not match, then I would have not been there. So it's been 10 years, and that was a really hard, I would say, first 7. So when we broke up. So we were together, we were planning a life together, we were talking about getting married. Um, we were talking about like everything a regular couple would talk about that weren't gonna have kids. And imagine like an older couple, right? So if you're like 50 and 60, you could still be talking about these things and obviously not include like new kids, maybe old kids, but not new. So it was the same sort of thing. And we were so close and everything appeared to be he appeared to be so in love. And I don't mean gishy-gushy. I mean, yeah, that it was in there too, definitely. But too over the top is too dramatic. That's like trying to be like, I'm trying to convince myself that I feel this way. I don't mean like that. I mean, we didn't really have fights because we got along so well. And he understood more things of my generation than he did. I knew more songs and popular stuff at the time that we were dating than he did. Um, so he was just I always said he was like an old soul. Um, so we progressed and so really other than saying that I was completely and utterly in love and happy and he appeared to be the same. Okay? I felt like it wasn't 50-50, but it definitely wasn't 90-10. Figured it was 60-40, right? Because I have more awareness, I have more experience that of course I appreciate stuff more. Of course I understand stuff more. Like you're acting so happy and in love and, doting and always caring about me. And so I thought it was like if I had to think about it, which I didn't at the time because this was just my life, our relationship, I would have said, "You know what? If I have to break it down into percentages, I would say I was 60 and he was 40." Okay? So we got along very well, and I think we were very compatible and we were raised very similarly. So those core factors can interfere in a relationship. Um, my whole take on relationships are going to be in another episode, but I believe just because you keep it together with spit and gum and tape does not make it a relationship. Just because you're together and you either one just can't like say this is it does not mean it's a relationship. I mean, it's a relationship technically, but it's a garbage relationship. And I believe 95% of people's relationship are garbage. And that's why fairy tales are and true life love stories, when you see like a couple that is 100 and they're truly and deeply in love and they're celebrating, I don't know, their 90th wedding anniversary, and when you interview their friends and their family, they say how in love they are, that they never really fought, and that they were each considerate of each other and all of this kind of stuff. It's a big deal because these relationships don't exist. And if they do, and you're a stupid little dweeb to throw it away, that's on you. But it was just, it was really nice. Okay. Now, like I said, a lot of relationships, just because they're held together with tape and gum and band-aids, to me, it doesn't make it a relationship. It makes it you're trying to make it something that it's not, which you're trying to make it a relationship, and I don't believe it is, okay? But that whole thing on a relationship is is another episode that I'm gonna get into. And I talk about the tape and the spit and the, Band-Aids to keep it together. Um, in my opinion, and I guess I'm just stupid, but a relationship should not be hard. If it's hard, it should be you 2 against the world. It should never be you 2 against each other. But because 90% of relationships are like that, it's just considered standard. This is my opinion. I mean, and then you have to think if people, each of them come from dysfunctional homes, they don't know how to behave functional. So I believe that's part of the reason why people can't have good relationships, because if the foundation is not there, it's not going to build anything stable. Um, so it's not as simple as saying you shouldn't fight. I don't believe you should fight. Not to the extent that like look at all the people around you. Look at possibly your own relationship. That's not love, in my opinion. Again, who am I? I'm just a person incognito. That should not be the way it is. It should be us against the world. And I don't mean against the world like we're gonna like, take it over or something. But you know what I mean? The daily struggles, we should be facing this together, not against each other. But there's a lot of factors that come into play. So I'm making a very complicated um idea or situation, very simplistic, but that's the way I feel, okay? Um, but we'll get into that in another situation. So, throughout our relationship, one of the things now again, he was very doting. He wasn't possessive. I wouldn't deal with that. He wasn't possessive. So the things that I'm about to tell you, I don't feel are controlling or especially he was very like docile, meaning he was feisty, but he was not an aggressive person whatsoever. Um, but the things that I'm going to tell you lent to the convincingness of how much he loved me. Okay. So some of the examples are so he lived in kind of the woods, right? He lived on, windy dark roads with not street lights and everything. Now, I grew up in suburbia where every road has a sidewalk, every street has a lamp. There's no windy dark roads, okay? So I'm not comfortable driving in that. Like I'm very slow and I'd rather drive on a highway with lots of lights and lots of stops than a windy back road with those poor deer coming and running out. Um, so he knew I was nervous or that it was like I wasn't good at driving and it was at night and everything like that. So he would always he would walk me out to the car and give me a good night kiss. And then he would say, "Oh, your front windshield is really bad." And I'd be like, "All right." I was like, "I'll clean it when I get home or tomorrow." He's like, "No, no, 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 no." He's like, "Let me clean it now." He's like, "It'll help you so much drive so much better with those winding back roads and everything like that." And a lot of times I was like, "Oh no, no, I just want to get home." And I get home to Landon, which is another story. And he'd be like, "No, no, it's just going to take me a minute." And he'd go in the house and he'd get the paper towels and he'd get the Windex or whatever, and he would clean it. And then he would say to me, "Oh, now I'll feel so much better. At least I'll feel a little better you driving home in the dark." And then it would take us like 15 minutes to say goodbye. And this was all 5 years. This wasn't just like the first like 2 months of the relationship. And then I would go home. Then I was walking Landon. So I don't have a backyard, so I have to walk my babies. So we were walking Landon before bedtime. And like I said, I have sidewalks and street light lamps, okay? And we were walking and he said, "Those two lights are out." I'm like, "Yeah, well, what am I gonna do?" He's like, "That's not safe for you and Landon." And I was like, "Well, what am what can I do about it?" He goes, "Well, there's numbers on the pole." And it was at night, so he went and, he took out his phone, he put on the flashlight, he took picture of the numbers on the pole, and he brought it inside and he showed me how to report it in case he wasn't there. And he said, I'll feel a little bit better, you guys walking out here in the dark." So again, I don't hear about any guys doing this. Again, not controlling, not, anything, just very, very concerned. And there were other times, and these just are the ones that I can remember. I'm sure that there were a lot of other ones. And then another time I was walking and it looked like it was going to storm. And so the trees are waving and all of that kind of stuff. And he said, "Listen," he's like, "you have a lot of big trees where you live." He goes, "When the wind starts to shake everything, you need to be careful that the big branches don't come down on you." And I was like, "I never thought about that." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "So just, maybe try to walk Landon either before the storm or whatever, or after the storm. This way, hopefully everything will come down, and you won't be out there." So I wanna know who in your life has ever done that. I don't think there's many people. Now, hopefully, there are good husbands, fathers, and boyfriends that are doing stuff like this. But this is just some examples of how convinced I was, how much he loved me. And those are just like piddly everyday examples. Um